Hi, everyone. I'm really excited and thrilled to be speaking again with Nancy Rebecca. Many of you will know Nancy. I think we've had two conversations which were so
Mhm.
rich and so exciting for many of us about the blue light beings and the information they were bringing through. And you've got some new information for us today that I am mega excited about because it seems to be coming thick and fast this week. For those of you who haven't heard those videos, I'll put the links below. But Nancy, if you don't know her, is a registered nurse, healer, psychic, intuitive teacher, meditation teacher. And with her business partner, Yvonne, she set up Intuitive Mind. She's an expert in reading the human energy field and does really high frequency work. So
Mhm.
always fabulous to connect, Nancy. So I understand that the blue light beings have been in touch with you again about a new theme, really, a new theme of
Yes.
information that's sort of emerging right now for us.
Mhm.
So can you tell us about this and how it started and what the messages have been? And I can hopefully back it up with some of the astrology as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm super excited. I'm giving you a huge air hug from across the waters, across the pond. And there are a lot of exciting things happening in the world. So, since those original experiences with the blue light surges coming through the pyramids to really help amplify the blue light, to really help people awaken to their divinity and the blue light of truth. So they've always, and I know these blue light beings to be the Syrians. So they've really encouraged me to embrace that finally, rather than just calling them blue light beings, because many star beings work with that frequency of blue. So that last round was in 2019, 2019, and 2023. And I see them very active around the world. I see them highly active and then resting, and highly active and resting. And then it was early July. I was meditating again. And again, the room filled up, but it filled up more with more blue light beings than before. Before was like about five or six. Anyway, it was this sweet little, like because they're very tall. So they kind of bend over. I'm actually sitting on a pillow on the floor, and they whisper into my ear, Nancy, would you mind making a video, a guided meditation that you can put out for free for everyone about truth dissolving lies? And I was like, how
Wow.
can I say no? How can I say no?
And that was July because we had a Mars Uranus conjunction that was very powerful, mid July, 15th, 16th, that was
Yes.
about truth coming to light. So that's
Oh,
interesting. Yeah,
really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that must have been about the same time because
Yeah.
Uranus is the planet of truth,
Yeah.
energized by Mars.
Wow. Wow. Well, they've always talked about the blue light is the dissolver of illusions, the illuminators of truth, and justice will prevail. I mean, that's pretty much been the common theme throughout. And so then I said, well, I would be happy to. Can you give me a little bit more information? And they talked about where before we had the really intense blue lasers coming through pyramids. This time it's like a very gentle wave. Gentle but mighty is what I'm going to say. Because so they said July 23rd would be that first wave that would be coming through. And what the wave does is it's a purity of truth. And so as it just kind of gently saturates our auric field, then what we've been holding inside as lies will dissolve. And we initially, we're just talking about unintentional lies, intentional lies, little white lies, um, dictatorship lies. Like there was just like five little categories. And so I just kind of came in front of my microphone here. I created a video. So it is free on my website. I will send you the link. It is free. People have been really excited about it, have been writing about it. And then they said the next wave would come August 10th. So, and they were very specific about that because, and I was told not to look at the astrological dates, just to listen to what they're saying. And so I'm really curious what was going on during that time.
Well, firstly, going back to, I think you said the 23rd of July,
Yes.
because on the 21st of July, we had a really strong full moon. I talked a lot about that in the update, that was conjunct Pluto. Now, Pluto was at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And it's Pluto's purpose, particularly as it gets to that last degree, is to reveal any corruption that is for our highest good. Okay, so full moon. I think it was a super moon as well. So it was very bright light of the moon revealing anything that is not for our highest good for humanity. And it was still at that point on the 10th of August. And of course, that was just after we're coming out of the Lion's Gate on 888.
Interesting. So in both situations, it was a couple of days after that
Yes,
big.
interesting. It seems to possibly take a couple of days for the energy to really
Yeah.
land with us, but that's really interesting because I know that they gave you other dates where there's more to come as well.
Yes.
But August
Yes.
the 10th was a very strong Lionsgate. It was an
Yes.
intense, I think, timeline shift for many
It
people.
it was very much time and space really shifted. And that's where it can kind of make us a little bit, am I what's happening to me? What's happening to my mind? But they really are getting us used to these, because a pure state of consciousness and a pure state of truth is timeless. And so as we're shifting, this is what they've been telling me. They've just been giving me so much information, and they're saying it's timeless. So they want us to practice with that timelessness, but it may only last a few seconds. It's just like we're being kind of inoculated, in little doses to make sure we're not allergic to something. That's my nursey side coming out. Okay. So then people were writing, and they were really writing about the lies that they hold inside. And for a majority of people, for a majority of you who sign up for that free meditation, I do a little teaching included. But the feedback I've been getting is they're really surprised at kind of what the lies that they're holding inside that they didn't know was there. So then now they're telling me in October. So no, we're still recovering, or we're still integrating the new truths that we're finding out. But October, now this is the one I can feel the boldness of it. And so when they were so precise with July 23rd and August 10th that I thought they would be equally um, precise for October. But what they were telling me was that they're pacing humanity. This was the word that they used. They're pacing humanity to see if they want humanity to be able to gently integrate. They don't want to scare humanity off. They don't want to overwhelm. They don't want to stress us out, cause us a lot of fear and anxiety. They really want us to come to the truth of ourselves in a way that feels like we can manage it. But this next one in October is big. And so what they are saying is um, they're just giving us time to get ready for it so that we can integrate it. And my sense is the sensing that I'm getting is like mid-October, to later. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. I've been counting the moments to talk to you to see what insights you have.
Yeah, just so interesting because the planet Pluto, for the last time in our lifetimes, the last time in its 248-year orbit, is going back into Capricorn from 2nd of September, very soon, until the 19th of November. And it's staying at that
Oh,
29 degrees of Capricorn, which is, digging up any dirty laundry from top down systems to reveal before we can move
yes.
on. And on the 19th of November, it then enters Aquarius for 20 years, and Aquarius is the sign of truth,
Oh,
transparency. So you've got that as a backdrop, but also on the 12th of October, Pluto moves stationary direct. It's retrograde up until the 12th of October. It stops, it's stationary, so its symbolism is magnified around, power issues. And then it moves forward. So this will be the last time in our lives, the last time for another 240 years roughly, that it will be in Capricorn. That will be in Capricorn. So 12th of October, it's still at that very last degree of Capricorn till the 19th of November. So that's one thing. Also, there's a full moon. You said it was bold energy. This is very bold astrology. Full moon, 17th of October. This is at 24 of Aries, and it forms a cardinal grand cross. So you've got sun and moon opposite each other, which you always have at a full moon. But on the other two corners of the square or the cross, you've got Mars opposing Pluto. And so in the late degrees of the cardinal sign, so that is bold energy. That is big and bold. And this is eclipse time as well. We move into the eclipses in September, also early October. And with eclipses that last several months after the actual eclipse date itself, they cut the light and then they reveal. They block the light and then they reveal. So we're in big time revelations in September, but also very, very strong in October with all of those areas. So anything that's not been for our highest good is going to be revealed in terms of top down, governments, corporations, institutions. And then November 19th, it moves into a very different energy of truth. And the people knowing and feeling the truth. And truth is going to be, as you say, Nancy, many different levels, individual truth, that little white lie I told to my partner or my neighbor, or, whatever. But it's going to be much bigger truth, isn't it? It's going to be
yes.
paradigm shattering truth, isn't it?
Paradigm shattering is a perfect word for it. It's a perfect word. And I'm trying to, because this is, so what they told me, because I was talking to them about the lies, and these kind of on the ground floor lies must be cleared out, but mostly they're looking for humanity to get used to and comfortable with letting go of lies. So, and a lot of people wrote me and said, I was so surprised that I had so many lies around dictatorship, which their surprise surprised me that that they just didn't know how programmed they were or how filled with false information, fake information. And I'm not just talking about the United States. You could make a movie out of what's happening here for us, but we're talking about global.
Yeah.
And so we're getting used to, and we're clearing, and people are hungry. They're like, okay, what more lies can we clear? What more lies can we clear? So when I was talking to the blue light beings, they were saying that the ultimate truth that we're coming to comes from a place that's beyond the beyond.
Wow.
So it's even beyond planet Sirius. It goes to the furthest galaxies. And I can't remember which the dates that what I call them Ama, which were very white, very pearly looking. Now they told me they've not been to Earth, but they do show up as holograms. But there's something about Om, the sound of Om. So there's a lot there, but that this pure truth is coming in and infusing the earth. It's time. And the other thing that they're very clear about, Pam, is it isn't like this was just in the schedule. This is happening because we're ready.
Yes.
We're ready for it to happen. We're ready to start opening to higher states of consciousness. And the truth that keeps coming through is we all are expanding in consciousness. Every single person is expanding in consciousness. But where people get confused is they're going to open to a greater level of consciousness that is appropriate for their level. So it isn't just like we're all going to become, you know, like the Dalai Lama or something. It isn't like that, but our ability to see the world. So this is what happened with the blue light when they said, okay, they said, first, the truth is Earth is your mother. So that was the very first truth, the magnetized, the amplified truth. The truth that's beyond the beyond is that Earth is our mother. As humans, we are blessed to live in her house. So that was that first truth that they came through. And then the second truth they came through, they said, we are becoming thought activated beings. And but this is the part that blew my mind when they said your thoughts will no longer cannot activate in the presence of lies. So what they're talking about is thought activated beings, where you have a thought and it manifests instantly, and you have a thought and it manifests instantly. But if it's a lie, it won't manifest.
Wow. And
And yeah, go ahead.
and do you think we're moving into a time where we'll be able to read each other's energy as you do, Nancy, so clearly that we can see the lies, we can see the dishonesty?
Yes. Yeah. So we're not going to be able to lie. And it was interesting. I was doing a live talk yesterday. I do it monthly or on the frequency forecast. And I said something in a very exaggerated manner. And right away it was like, whoop. And I had to say, that's not true. I've just exaggerated that. And then I replaced it with the truth, and then I could move forward. So, and it wasn't malicious or anything like that. I'm from Arkansas. I'm from the South. We embellish a little bit to make a story sound better, but I couldn't do it. And this is what everyone's going to start noticing. I can't remember. It was some movie, but it was, if someone told the lie, they'd get tongue tied and they couldn't even speak English or something like that. So it's kind of like that. We're going to experience this. But this truth is pure consciousness. It's pure consciousness. And so when they're saying in that pure truth consciousness state, it's infusing everything around us to where we will grow into moving objects, being able to fly, um, knowing telepathically. That's a really biggie here, because the truth will spread further telepathically, which is a good thing, because if you're telling a lie, it maybe only will impact, a small amount of people, where in the past it would just travel on the same highway. But now it has to be of the frequency of truth before you can express that. There's so much, Pam, so much that's changing. But this purity of consciousness, when they were explaining to me this truth, when you're in pure truth, it's like the past is kind of false and the future's kind of false. And that right now, this is the truth. And you don't even have a question to ask. I have to try to explain this. It was like I've experienced pure consciousness once, and it maybe lasted 5 minutes, and I wish it had lasted a lifetime. But I remember I couldn't even ask the question, what's happening to me, because the answer already existed. I could, and that's what they're saying is happening, is that we're not even going to hunger for other people's opinions as this progresses. And they're saying this progression is going to be about 6 years. So this isn't just a one and done kind of thing, like, whoop, you're awake, you're purity of truth, you're never going to lie again. Because they're saying they don't want to shock us. They don't want our lies to shock us. or
Yeah.
what we've built on. When we talk about the matrix, it's like we they're going gently and they're pacing us to see so it can move faster than 6 years. I don't think it's going to go longer than 6 years. But this next big movement is in the spring of 2025, and that's going to be even larger than these first three. Let me just look at my notes. It said you must have a peaceful intention to grow into higher states of consciousness.
Oh, that's
And so
beautiful.
that's why they're bringing this, they're helping us with truth so we can get to those peace-filled intentions.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, if you're in polarity or anger or hate or division or warlike states, any aggression, then you can't do that. So,
Right.
is this like a shift more into the light body, Nancy? Because as you were speaking about that, your aura got very bright.
Well, I have written about 5 pages on the light body. I'm going to be creating a video. Oh, Pam Gregory, who says she's not intuitive.
I can see it. It just expanded.
Yes, it has everything to do with the light body. Everything to do with the light body. And so I'm going to make a video like what a light body is and what it isn't, because a lot of people get really confused. So if I could share a little story about so I have about 400 students that I work with almost every week. And I have I can't even call them advanced students. They're just graduate, but they, will do work at different levels. And once a month for each of my 3 groups of students, I'll do a reading for them. So in this advanced group, it was blue. I was seeing blue light codes, photonic light codes. Now it would be like a bunch of nuts and bolts, in this container. And there was a block underneath. And when I was reading it, they weren't letting the light codes in. And the image spirit showed me was like an industrial kitchen, like it has to be spotless before we can prepare the meal. So it was almost like, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. And just to let everybody know, the flood of light codes is bigger than I've ever seen it.
Oh, wow. That's for
It's
spring next year.
it's yes, and it's big. So I worked on the energy field to help them kind of move the blocks so that we can download these light codes that are intended to help us. Well, the world's doing the same thing. It's like it's
Oh,
moving too fast. Stop the world. I want to get off kind of thing. But what people in their conscious state will begin to learn um, that the quicker they can shift, the quicker they're going to feel better. It's the trying to put your tennis shoe on the ground because your skateboard's going too fast. It's just not going to work very well.
wow. But this is so exciting because it sounds like, being in the moment, living in the present, which is the only place our power ever is. But also this sense of purity coming in that
Yeah.
will allow us to feel this greatly expanded consciousness and multidimensionality, I expect as
Yes.
well. Wow. So because spring is very powerful next year astrologically as
Is
well.
it? Is it?
Yeah. Were you
Yeah.
thinking of March, April, Nancy?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, all of by spring northern hemisphere time, all of the outer planets are moving direct. Okay, whereas at the moment they're all moving retrograde. So there's this feeling of we're moving forwards now in the world. We're moving forwards. Neptune is at 29 degrees of Pisces at that time. So the anoretic degree, the crisis degree, the very last degree of Pisces, last degree of the zodiac.
And what does the anoretic degree mean?
It means that the 29th degree of any sign, so it tends to express the kind of the shadow side of that sign.
Oh, yeah.
There's a crisis around. So with Pisces, the shadow side is around lies, deceptions, and illusions. So
Oh,
just like Pluto moving through the 29th degree of Capricorn, about anything corruption, anything that's not true. Equally, Neptune is helping us with any revelation around lies, deceptions, illusions, because it is also at that 29th degree of Pisces by then. And so that we could see a lot of disillusionment with people. But even by the end of March, Neptune, again for the very first time in our lives, is moving on to 0 degrees of Aries. That only happens every 165 years. So 0 degrees of Aries is the very first degree of the zodiac, a whole new beginning for humanity,
Oh, wow.
which is really
Wow.
powerful. And in fact, it sort of hovers around that and moves back a little a couple of months later. And then in February 2026, Neptune and Saturn together, kind of holding hands, move fully into 0 degrees of Aries. But this is the very first time in 165 years it's been at that degree. So it's like a whole new episode for humanity. And at the same time, Pluto is in the very early degrees of Aquarius, to do with truth, to do with the beginning of the shift of power to the people as well. Both of
Yes.
them are about a kind of fresh energy, a freshness. It's primal fire and also air with Aquarius, but there's a feeling of freshness, newness. And because they're both moving into the very slow moving planets, moving into the beginning of new signs, it's a big new beginning. All of this period from 23 to 26, endings, beginnings, endings, beginnings, and it's reinforced in so many ways. And then in April, Saturn is actually conjunct that Neptune, tipping into 0 degrees of Aries. You are now seeing a different reality. You're now seeing a
Wow.
different reality. It's making real the dream that you want. It's the beginning of much stronger manifesting ability, I believe.
Yes.
So, this is just such a powerful time, but I love it that it's linking in with, the information you're getting from the blue light beings. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yes, yes. And they want to see us prepared, but it isn't like we have to think a lot about it. As I tell people, it's like whether you're conscious or not conscious, if you're standing out in the rain, you're all going to get wet. And this is that kind of that blue light that's coming in. You're all touched by light codes. And like in the truth, they may see the truth in their relationship of like, oh, I can't change you and you can't change me. Or it's like, I'm gonna be me. And I think that's awesome that you're gonna be you. This is that truth that's coming in. We're gonna find some less conflicts about this. And less conflicts around jobs, like, just really aligning more with the purpose, really feeling aligned with that pure truth. I'm okay, you're okay. This comes up a lot. And then the other thing that, when they're saying this goes beyond the beyond, we're thinking lies, like do bankers lie? Do politicians lie? Do governments lie? We think in terms like that of that 3D lie. But when I said, well, what kind of truth do you mean? And they said, well, the truth that the galactic starships will be making their presence known in the next 5 years. And I was just like, okay, you're right. I don't know that we're all ready for this.
But I can see that very clearly in the astrology coming in.
Really?
Oh yes, I mean, particularly Uranus, that's the planet of the galactics. It starts to move into Gemini next year. I think it's in July next year, and that's about galactic communication. Well, of course, many people
Oh,
you're
wow.
having galactic communication. People channel the Palladians, the Arcturians, etc. But it's
Yes,
going to be a more widespread collective communication with galactic beings because they are our family. That's where we came from.
exactly. Well, and that's the other thing that, thank you so much for being intuitive, Pam. So, because Yes, that's exactly what they said. They said, now there's a lot of people that have been seeing the star beings and they've been communicating with them. There's a lot that have seen the blue light, but they said this is exactly what's going to happen. This is another one of the truths that they said was that those who are star beings on the earth at this time, have those star seed qualities, will that portion of them will start moving forward. Those who are ready and waiting will start to see them or sense them. And that often will come in the side, they'll often come in the side because they don't want to frighten us. Uh, and I can't emphasize that enough, that they don't want to frighten us, but they'll come in the side just to gently, have you ever seen anything on the side and you look and then there's nothing there? Yeah. So they've always explained to me that's them kind of getting us ready for them to walk in fully or to see them fully. And this communication, they have helpers on the ground. That's what they're describing. And that only those who are ready for that, or this is their mission, those are the ones that will be seeing them, getting information. So I'm really encouraging people right now because this is such a riveting time. Like, I'm so excited. I can barely stay in my own skin. I've been doing this work for 30 years, and I don't think I have ever been so excited about a time of change. And so I want people to start journaling because then when they come after March or April and they look back and they're like, wow, that's where my consciousness was then.
Yeah.
And this is where it is now.
I,
But if I could just state one more thing, I'm going to pull in my nursing side and I'm going to pull in that side of wanting to work at the 3D level because there's a lot of people suffering and there's a lot of people struggling and there's a lot of people that don't have hope. And when these light codes are coming in and people are kind of trying to slow them down, it's because it can overactivate the pain. When we are creating our light body. I want to be clear about that too. It's not being done to us. We are allowing the light in, but then we need to clear out and then allow more light to come in to create more of that light body. But the stuff that's being illuminated inside of us that's what's causing our suffering.
yeah.
But as it gets cleared, if we can allow that pure light of truth and consciousness to come in, everyone's going to feel better. But wow, when we don't feel good, it's hard to believe any of this.
But won't this sort of surge of light codes and truth actually shift us more into the heart and into our compassion and our
Exactly.
mercy?
Exactly. So people have to keep trusting that. You keep having to have trust and faith. Um, instead of saying it's just never going to get better, it's just never going to get better. It's like, it is going to get better. I believe it's going to get better. I am better. I am light. I am love. But I've also worked with people a long time and it's, everyone's getting a lot of help from the frequencies. The frequencies, it's like, if you can let go. And I know people have I've been letting go of a lot, but it's like, you just got to keep letting go. You instantly move to the higher frequency that's available to us. If you can't let go, and there's certainly things that are hard to let go of, it's like a dog chasing its tail in one frequency, this lower frequency. You're just going to be stuck in that. And there are some that are just not resolvable. There are a lot of issues in our lives that are just that person's never going to get on our page, or we're seeing so much hope and people are being hopeless. It's like, you just have to let them be where they are and you keep letting go and moving the next level. Because what happens is it raises the whole frequency of the whole earth.
Yeah.
And then that's when the others will say, oh, I'm seeing a little peak of light here.
Yeah, it's like you infect the whole collective with higher
Yes.
frequency. And so
Yes.
that's our job. Wherever we are at on that spectrum, it is our job to keep beaming our light. Keep beaming our
Yes.
light, beaming our love, beaming our truth, because it will benefit the whole collective as well as our
Yes.
own reality as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And do you know, I don't know if you have a sense of this, Nancy, and I don't, as an astrologer, I even dare say this, but one of the previous times that Pluto was in Aquarius was also a paradigm shattering time, because that was the time when Copernicus published his heliocentric theory that the Earth went round the sun and not
Uh,
the other way around. And, you know, people said, you got to be crazy. You see the sun come up every morning and it moves through the sky. So, you know, it was absolutely paradigm shattering. I think for astrology and our understanding of the cosmos and the galaxies, we could be entering another paradigm shattering time, and at which point I might just, you know, hang up my shoes and retire. But you know, I am actually expecting some kind of mammoth
yes.
shock, even to what I've practiced for decades. And
Yes.
you know, I feel slightly embarrassed to say that, but I'm expecting that actually.
Yes. And we can't right now, we can't even perceive a concept of what things are going to be like, even in the next 6 years, but in the next 1,000 years. You know, we just, we won't even be able to imagine how we used to think. It's going to be a real challenge. And that the other thing the blue light beings were talking about, this is why I love it, because I'm like, I didn't write anything down and I wrote a couple things, but um, what they were saying was, oh, let me get this right. Oh, that we have, like, science is developing really quickly. And science is only developing quickly because consciousness and the level of wisdom and knowledge that's coming in is providing opportunities for science to go to the next level. But science without consciousness can be dangerous.
Yes.
And so we really must, you know, I'm a big supporter of meditation. And it's like, you know, we must keep meditating. We must keep expanding in our consciousness. We must uh, make it a priority. It's not just like a weekend. Okay, I've got some time this weekend. I think I'll sit and just let my energy flow and be at peace for 5 minutes. It's it's like now we really want to make sure that consciousness is one step ahead of science, or that they're working in a unified way. And in health, I'm a nurse. I'm super excited about what's going to happen in the medical field.
Because do you see increased lifespan and anti-aging? Because I'm
Yes.
seeing that in the astrology very clearly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And being much healthier and clearing out toxicity.
Yes. Yes. All of the above, as well as not so invasive ways of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you also feel with this wisdom coming in that part of that is the remembrance of the kind of wisdom we had maybe during Atlantean times or Lemurian times?
We are really being imprinted with that, but there's a sense when I'm talking to the blue light beings, it's happening slower this time. Because there are times, what they are saying, where our consciousness would rapidly increase and they would allow that integration time, and it was almost like a push 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 for higher consciousness without the um we were still kind of caught in some power things, some power struggles that were going on. And I'm going to be making a video. Well, I'm not going to tell the secret, but the secret I'm going to talk about. But there's one particular chakra that is going to be the most dominant in the next few years over all of the others. But it has to do with this consciousness keep keeping one step ahead of power struggles, and groundedness. And when they're talking about the earth, we're talking about very high celestial levels, but as above, so below. The underworld is waking up. The underworld is returning to the earth. All these mystical beings that we just thought were part of folklore are, when you start seeing, this, I don't know what they call Manatar or Pegasus or all the little people, like it's starting as the truth comes up, and people are willing, they're going to be able to say, well, that's truly a little person. So it, there's so much that's happening.
That is the fourth mention I've heard this week of that, of beings living in inner earth, and also, the elementals, the fairies becoming much more, all these different dimensions of beings are going to start to become much more visible to us because we're purifying our own energy.
Yes.
We're lightening our energy. So we're shifting into this greater multidimensionality as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow, it's enormously exciting. But yeah, I really have to agree with you, Nancy. I think keeping it simple, bring it back to stillness, silence, meditation, your state of being is your absolutely top priority. And I say that often in the videos because there is so much noise out there and so much fast
Yes.
moving change. It can be head spinning. It can just,
Yes.
it can scatter your energy. So bring it back to the breath, bring it back to the simple, drop into your heart. And I also feel that the heart is going to become more and more important as we move forwards as well. We've lived in such an information age, a mind dominated time.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's part of the
Yeah.
shift too. Would you agree?
Well, the heart chakra is already and has always been very multidimensional.
Wow.
And we can get those influences from those interdimensional communications that are really always coming into our heart. But there was a video I made, I can't remember the name of it now, but I was told that there were three main levels. It was like your relationship with God. I think it was relationship with family, relationship with self. I don't know. It had to do with the ancestors, but we get so blocked in those areas that it's often challenging to really hear the massive interdimensional, to feel that love, that's it's not a human love, it's just this pure love. And people often wonder, like, how do you love other people who are hurting other people, and so, but the answers are there for that. But the big number one, we need to get better at loving ourselves. That's number one. Now with the mind, right, the mind has kind of run amok. It's been put in charge for so long that it doesn't know how to not be in charge anymore. So it's really up to us to start kind of guiding our mind to say, all right, backseat of the car, consciousness is going to have the hands on the steering wheel now. You can tell me where to go, but I'm going to listen to consciousness first. And so we have this love. I can't even call it love, Pam, because it's so pure. Like, I think in our words, humanity, love is kind of dripping with this heaviness of projections, I'll just say, of
An
what we think love
attachment.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes beyond that in a big, big way. And
It's like a divine love.
yes, yeah. It's very pure, it's very neutral. It's almost like you just know your love. You don't even have to question it. You don't even have to need it. And it's that connection. Keeping that connection to the divine source and the Mother Earth. That's essential to feel that motherly love, or, the goddess love or the feminine love. And there's a lot coming up around the masculine divine as well. How they describe to me the feminine is like the water flowing through the river, and the male masculine divine is the banks of the river, or the container that helps hold the female energy so that it can flow. So, we need both. So the masculine divine, there's a real boost that's coming up in the fall as well. With this even more. And I have a lot of students that are men, and it's really interesting as they start to learn to work with their male energy. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have shut this off, and there's just so much, Pam, so much beautiful stuff happening. And so yesterday in my talk, they said, you know, I said, I thought we were going to have a utopia. It was one of those moments. I thought we were going to have a utopia. I thought that's what my imagination. And they were like, well, you are in a utopia. You just need to look. And that's where we are in humanity. It's like you can't see the sunflower growing right next to you because you're just looking at the pain. And so I've heard you talk about that often, where it's just like, we have to return to that state of love. We have to. Well, their message to me is you have to look for the color. You have to remember, everyone needs to remember to look for the color.
Yeah, and your focus is your superpower. Because if you
Yes.
focus on the sunflower and the sunset and the hummingbird, you're in paradise, aren't you? And the more of us that do that and get into our kind of bliss bubble, as I call it, and we all join together in our bliss bubbles, then we start to create a much more loving world. It's
Yes.
simple stuff. It's not complicated as I see it from my simple point of view. It's all simple stuff for free that everyone can do. Observing the beauty and the loving and the good in the world, as opposed to always feeling overwhelmed by the pain and the suffering of which there's absolutely no doubt there's a great deal. But if we keep focusing on that, we're going to keep recreating more of it. That's the issue.
Exactly. Whatever you focus on grows. And I mean, I have my same stuff. I can, there was a complexity around a relationship, and it was just like, oh, I'm just really letting them get under my skin. And I'm trying not to. And I was talking to the blue light beings because I do talk to other spirit guides and things, but the blue light beings seem to be coming through pretty strong right now. And I said, could you give me some insight? And they were like, yeah, why are you letting them influence you? Why are you giving them that power? And it was like, oh, that's the question I forgot to ask. You're not like, how can I stop it? How can I stop being irritated? Why am I allowing that type of influence? And so those are the things Spirit always says, Nancy, if you can just get people to close their eyes, then their spirit can take over teaching them. So I always tell people, just close your eyes so your spirit can teach you. And that was that one statement I needed to hear. And it completely calmed everything.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because this, I think, is a very big time. Again, lots of astrological significators of us stepping back to our sovereignty, which is something we haven't known really in this lifetime, or probably many lifetimes. We've
Right.
been so taught to defer to external authorities, be it government officials, policemen, teachers, parents, whatever, and that isn't to say we should be violent and aggressive in society. I mean, heaven knows I'm a double Pisces, and I'd never advocate that. But it's a question of being in your loving, kind heart, but also saying, this is what works for me, and let us find something that now works for both of us, rather
Yes.
than you just instructing me, in the way I have to operate in society. And I've even been thinking recently, and again, I don't know if I should dare say this on this video, but um, in videos, I've often mentioned that there's a kind of old fashioned view of astrology that planets do things to you. People want to come for a reading, and I don't do client work anymore, but they wanted to come for a consultation to see what the planets were doing to them at that time. And it
Yes.
felt very fated and very traditional. And I think even though we seem to have moved a little bit from that, there's still a sense of we are giving away our power to the planets.
Yes.
We are giving away our power to the planets, and the planets are within us.
Exactly.
Within
Yeah.
us, all of those archetypes and urges and desires are within us. As,
Yes.
as above, so below, inner and outer. And
Yes.
this is what we've got to learn, that if we live from the inside out, not the outside in, then everything starts to shift in our reality. And again, we infect the collective with,
And quickly.
yes.
That's what's so amazing. And for me, that's the first place I always like to go. What am I responsible for here? What am I responsible for in my thinking, in my believing, in my actions? And I really start to dismantle at that place. And then before I can even try to look at who needs to be responsible for their part, it just doesn't even matter anymore. So I just am finding that that works for me. If I can just take those quiet moments, yeah, to take a look at that and take responsibility for my thoughts and my actions. Because let me go back to my words I wrote here. We are becoming thought activated beings.
It's just beautiful. It's
And
just,
so if that's true, we better keep track.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Keep
I
us,
do have a question for you though,
yeah.
and it has to do with, so this came through the blue light beings as well, and they were talking about how what they told me was a truth that our ancestors dreamed us into existence. So that's how they started. And I said, okay. And they said, so only those here in humanity right now, we were dreamed to be here at this time. And that our ancestors, thousands of years ago, or people, individuals, or whoever, powers that be, thousands of years ago, gods or goddesses, knew that we were going to be going through this period of time. And they started saying prayers way back then and sending it to this period. It's almost like making sure we had enough manna to eat, or we just had enough food. We just had enough conscious energy to sustain us during this time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's spot on, because everything begins with energy, doesn't it? Everything in creation begins with energy. That the earth was even brought into being through sound. And if you know, I was talking about the dwarf planet Algira the other day, which is linked to the it's the creator god of the Aboriginal people, who believe that dream time is more real than this 3D reality,
Yeah.
because that's where the source of everything is. That's where we do our dreaming, our visioning, our imagining to make manifest what appears in our day-to-day reality. So I absolutely believe that. And also, you know, if you look at the ancient Hopi prophecies and Mayan prophecies, you know, they talked about this period of time. Also, some ancient Egyptian prophecies, some prophecies of the Indians who live in the Andes Mountains. Everything is converging. Everything is converging around this time. So yes, it's very much a a quantum leap for humanity, in a sense, in a way that it has never fully happened before. We have never, what we're entering into, we're absolutely in the crucible of change right now. And this leap in our evolution has never happened to the level that it is happening, will be happening, continue to happen for us right now. We are in it. And there's been some near misses in the past, but we are the people here on earth who
Mhm.
are actually going to make that quantum leap. And it will, as you said, Nancy, it will be a metamorphosis, not just a transformation,
Yes.
an
Yes.
absolute metamorphosis. And that's very signaled by dwarf planet Sedna, which has
Yes.
also just changed sign. So, and that is a whole change of state. It's like a new biology.
Yeah, I totally believe that. It because there's so much, they'll often mention Lemuria and Atlantis, but they'll say, Nancy, there are civilizations on Earth that are even older than that. There's many, many that have come and gone, and their memories, their energy, their consciousness is saturated in the earth. It's still here for us to tap into and to draw from. And I'm with the students that I work with who, they may not believe they have an intuitive bone in their body. And my mind is just being blown because worked with teaching intuitive psychic development for 30 years. And it's just like, I'm just like, whoa, where did you come up with this from? And they're like, well, I don't know if it's my imagination or it's, my intuition. So that's a pretty standard statement most people make, but it's like we're just kind of naturally stepping into it. It's not requiring a lot. I can offer that guidance. I can teach someone how to ground, but when we're talking about that bottom up authority, that's what's happening. People are awakening really rapidly.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely. In fact, I just happened as I was getting ready for this session, I happened to be listening to Lee Harris's update for September, his energy update, and he said exactly that. People
Wow.
are sort of
Wow.
stepping back into their
Wow.
power. So, and the memory of those ancient consciousnesses and all that wisdom, I think, is not just held in the earth; it's also held in the water because water holds memory.
Yes. Oh, yes,
All there
absolutely.
for us to tap.
Yes.
And do you feel, Nancy, that our past will just kind of go to dust? Because
Yeah.
that's my feeling that all of
Yeah.
the angst and the, arguments and tit for tats and wars, it will go to dust. It will seem irrelevant.
Yeah.
To,
Well, to me, everything's a frequency,
yeah,
and those heavier frequencies will not be able to maintain as the frequencies go up. So they will just collapse. They will just fall apart. It will be almost as if you're thinking back and it's like, uh why did I let that bother me for so long, or how come it's not bothering me anymore? It'll be just like that. And even less about the future, other than they're saying we need to continue to pray and offer light to the future generations after us, that because this isn't stopping here. It's not like at the end of our lifetime it's going to stop. It's going to keep going. So they've really encouraged me when they said that, for us to say our prayers and send supplies, energetic supplies ahead. But it's just, things are just not going to matter as much anymore. We're not going to even be able to carry the burden of it like we did before.
that's
It's
my
not going to be
feeling.
possible.
Everything softens around that.
Yeah. And this is big, like 6 years. I don't know what the 6 years is, but it's just like rapid, 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 rapid. And then after like the 6 year mark, it looks like things really smooth out then.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because that's 2030 and the golden age has been prophesized and it was said to be 2032, but apparently we're already ahead of schedule. So this is the run-in to the golden age. We
Okay.
are we are preparing the ground, the bridges, the paint on the canvas.
Yeah.
We are creating from zero, really, from a blank slate, the golden age of our
Yeah.
golden future.
Yeah. And I often, especially recently, think about those times as a kid, just laying in the grass and looking at the clouds go by. We just don't even do that anymore. We're going and laying, and looking at the stars, and those times where we felt like we had days on end to just, you know, um, relax into whatever was happening. And so I am really, I feel like we're running a marathon, or, and we're passing the baton to the next person, but it'll be nice when the race is over. And
Relax. Yeah, absolutely. And that time will come. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Within it will get easier. I think this is the most intense, turbulent time of change as I see it this year and next year, and then it gradually smooths out, softens out as we get
nice.
beyond that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
incredibly excellent. I've loved this conversation, Nancy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really excited about these waves that are coming. And again, I will include the link to the free meditation. It seems to be ever evolving, ever changing. So as I'm kind of guided to add another level, I'll just put it in there that's free for anybody to have access to. We do have our equinox that's coming up, and that's another big time of preparation, really preparing us for the blue light. And what's interesting was I was told that this event in October around this blue light of truth would be similar in power to the solar eclipse that we experienced in April. And then you mentioned that we're having several eclipses. And I was like, okay, that's what they were trying to tell me.
Yeah, yeah, September, October, and then into next spring. Yeah, March, April time. Yeah, and so and we're having a lot of full supermoons as well, where the moon is much closer to the Earth, so it's much more powerful emotionally for us. And yeah, I've scarcely seen such enormous astrology as I'm dealing with this year. It's
Wow.
huge, and next, it just keeps. It's a gift that keeps on giving. It just keeps on coming.
Well,
So
I don't think you're going to be able to retire just yet, Pam. And I think that all of your listeners are going to have a lot to say about even you thinking about it.
yes, I know. This has come up today actually in quite an interesting way. So it's interesting you say yes, interesting you say that. Anyway, now
Thank you
much
so
love. Now, is there
much.
anything else you'd like to share with the viewers before we pop off?
Um, it's I guess it's just more about the light body, that's being created, and we all are in this river of life together, in that current. We are flowing together. There's a lot of new there's a lot of you out there who are just now like this is so much new information for you, but I promise you, you're going to be able to integrate, take it in so much faster than I did 30 years ago. Because or Pam or any of us, we just weren't of that frequency. It took us a little bit longer. So don't think you've got to spend 30 years. I think that's what I want to say is don't think you need to spend 30 years before you're going to reach some level of understanding. The understanding it's available to us now. It's coming in, but just be okay. I think that's what I want to say with humanity is just be gentle with yourselves. You
Yeah,
know, you're
yeah, yeah.
going to open to new levels when it's the right time for you. So,
Yeah. Stay in peace, stay in stillness, go into the
yes.
breath, go into meditation, keep it
Yeah.
simple. Yeah,
Keep
absolutely.
it
And I'd really reiterate what you've said, Nancy, because, all those years ago when I was learning astrology, I did it with hard slog with logarithmic tables of planets. Couldn't use a calculator, mobile phones didn't exist, and it took hours to calculate a chart. And younger people now are just going to be able to download that information. It
exactly.
will arrive. They won't have any of that heavy slog that I had to go through. So it'll be a
Exactly.
very different world in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bless you, Nancy. It's been an absolute
Oh,
joy as always. I've loved it, and thank you so much for sharing this really high frequency information about the light. I think everybody will be excited to hear this. So
everybody should be excited because it is exciting. It's super exciting.
bless you
Yeah.
for all that you're
Thank
doing
you.
in the world. So
Thank you so much,
lots of
Pam.
love, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'm sure Nancy and I'll be speaking again in the
Yes.
future, not too long from now. Bye for
Yes. Lovely. Bye bye.